Hello and welcome to the world's biggest pelvic floor squeeze, being broadcast from Edinburgh with Natracare and Elaine Miller, aka Gussie Grippers. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming, Elaine. So we are here today to host the world's biggest pelvic floor squeeze in order to raise awareness of the importance of pelvic health. And so over to Elaine. So can you tell me what it is that you do?
I'm a pelvic health physiotherapist, so that means that I work here at Balance Physiotherapy doing looking after women that come because they're having a problem controlling their poo or their pees, or they've got vaginal prolapse, or they have pelvic pain, or they are pregnant and that's causing musculoskeletal problems, or postnatally if they have a gap in their abdominis, rectus abdominis is not healing properly. I didn't used to work in women's health, I used to work in sports, but then I had 3 babies in 4 years, and obviously that wasn't planned, and all of my babies were born with heads, so after that, like the science of continence and the wonders of the pelvic floor were fascinating, and so now I fish about in fannies, which is quite a change, but I like it because if you wet yourself, it has such a big impact on what you do every single day. It really dominates women's thinking, even. It dominates everything that they want to do, and they get better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Brilliant. No, helping women is important, and that is a lot of the kind of ethos of Natracare as well. So
yeah.
Natracare was founded in 1989 by our wonderful Susie Hewson, who has been in the business of women's health, essentially. So what we do with Natracare is we provide the option of organic, natural products. We have an incontinence range called Natracare Dry and Light. So it's breathable, cotton, natural products that are better for women's bodies, and kind of better for if you're wearing something every day. You need it every day. You don't want it to be full of plastic and not breathable. So
I think you're the only company that's done a promotion for women's health like this, actually thinking about what do women need. Because some people do need pads. There's nothing wrong with needing a pad. It's using it as a tool to manage the problem, but not relying on it for the rest of your life, which is something that's quite hard to get manufacturers to take on board. So
yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. We like you too. That was kind of very important to us when we were thinking about this campaign. Was the incontinence pad is not a solution to the problem; it's something to help manage it. But we don't want to create a business model where women are leaking for the whole of their lives so that we can make money from that. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in raising awareness of the problem and bringing experts like you in to help us do that. So
thank you, because it's novel thinking.
Yeah, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there as well. We hope that you are looking forward to practicing ultimate act of self-love and care, your pelvic floor. Comment in the box and let us know where you're joining from today. It'd be great to hear from some of you. Thank you very much for joining. I can see that there's 14 people joining us so far. Hi Susie and hi Kate. Hello. We're here today at Balanced. So our friends at Balanced, Elaine works with Balanced, the physiotherapist. So thank you for letting us use your space. And we're here to talk about stress incontinence, really. So Natracare's incontinence range is suitable for stress incontinence as opposed to urge incontinence or full void incontinence. This is because superabsorbent polymers, which are the very absorbent material that is used in all sorts of things, nappies, conventional period products. We don't use those because they're made of plastic. They don't biodegrade. They're not good for the environment. They're not good for your body. If you think so.
That gel stuff.
Yeah. So it's so absorbent. It absorbs 11 times its own weight. But if you have that, next to your vagina, you have all of that moisture. It's going to suck that up as well and dry it out. We don't use those things because we don't agree with that. There isn't currently an organic or kind of biodegradable alternative. So what we use is fluff, essentially, from like fluff and pulp, which is very absorbent, but for stress incontinence it works because it's more leaking rather than kind of full bladder volume. So yeah, that's what we're here to discuss. Stress incontinence, which is otherwise known as light bladder leakage.
Sorry, I'm aware I just rolled my eyes. Yes, it is commercially known as light bladder leakage, which is not a technical term, but yeah. Usually stress incontinence is when people wet themselves when they laugh, cough or sneeze, or if they run, or if they're doing something that increases the pressure inside their abdomen, so that it gives a spike in their abdominal pressure, and their pelvic floor muscles aren't strong enough to resist that force, so they're going to leak small amounts, usually sort of between 5 to 10 mils, which is just a couple of teaspoons worth of pee. So it's not big volumes, but if you have that repeatedly, then it interferes with what you're wanting to do. So commonly women stop exercising because they're leaking when they're exercising.
Which affects your well-being, mental health, and it's some of the things that I've been reading since doing this campaign, just the amount of areas of life that it affects for women. It's vast, it seems. So
it's staggering. And the thing about stress incontinence is because it's so common, so the stats on this are really depressing. It's 1 in 3 women wet themselves, although I think that that's probably a bit on the low side, because those figures are based on women that present to clinic. And really, if you say to somebody, hello, do you wet yourself? They tend to say no. That people don't tend to be very honest about these symptoms because it's so embarrassing. But if you go to any school gate and you ask a bunch of mums at the school gate, would you like to come on my trampoline? Nobody's going to come to a trampoline party because they're all going to wet themselves. So although the official figures is 1 in 3, I suspect it's not that accurate, and actually the numbers are much bigger. So if it's something that affects you, you're not alone. Even though nobody talks about it, it is incredibly common, but it's manageable, if not curable, with physio. So there was a big study done in Australia, and they found that 6 sessions of physio cured 84% of stress incontinence. So this is why I get so annoyed about it, because there's really no need to have all of these women feeling miserable, because there's effective management and tools to allow you to be able to do what you want to do, and then for a significant number of people, they don't need to think about the bladder at all.
Yeah. That is staggering, the fact that it's so easily fixed, really, for the large majority of women, and in a natural way that avoids things like mesh implants, which is,
the mesh is a big issue. So that is a treatment that was very effective. They used mesh in abdominal repairs, and then they changed the technology to see if it would help support pelvic floors and just take the weight off so we could support a bladder. And in some women, there has been a negative reaction to the implants. And still don't know why some women have had these negative reactions. And there's some chain of thought that think that it might be an autoimmune problem. But for the women that are affected by it, then it's been devastating for some of them. It's been horrendous. And there's a lot of women who have mesh removal now, and it's banned as it's not banned, that's not correct. You're not able to get a mesh implant now unless it's been very, very carefully looked at. And to be honest, if we can catch people early enough, then there's some women who wouldn't need to have mesh surgery. So because we know that physiotherapy is so effective, if we can, I'm garbling, it takes an average of 7 years for somebody to come to clinic. So if we can catch you before then and give you the treatments, then you wouldn't be in a situation, hopefully, where things are more complicated, and perhaps we can prevent people from needing mesh immediately. We might just buy people a few years, 5 years, 10 years, but that's important. So yay for physio.
So we're glad that it's so successful. That's what we're here to do today. So stay tuned for a pelvic floor demonstration, because some of the feedback that we got from women was that they are doing them, but they're not sure that they're doing them right. And it would be a brilliant thing to have more people come away from this today knowing that they're doing it right.
No problem. I'm ready and waiting. At all times.
So one of the things that we've also noticed during running this campaign is quite how dominating that taboo is around the subject as well. And so what can you tell us about
Yeah, I can't find a society where wetting yourself is socially acceptable. It just seems to be something that's universally, it's forgiven if you're very, very young. So in babies and in very, very frail people, then that seems to be sort of accepted. But in anybody else, it's something that's absolutely mortifying. And that includes in young children that are sort of 4 or 5 years old. If they wet themselves in front of friends at school, then they remember that probably for the rest of your life, and you will as well. If you then wet yourself in front of people, it sends you back to the time when you were little and you had an accident. I don't know, I haven't found any evidence about why it is so fundamental to us to be clean and dry. Nobody seems to have looked at it, or if they have, I haven't come across it. But we do know that people that have got problems with their bowel and bladder control will have problems with mood as well, and that there's a clear association between stress incontinence and people's mood starting to come down. And what they do is change their habits. So they tend to, if they've had a small leak, then they tend to drink less and go to the toilet more, just in case. And often they're not picking up the correct products as well. So people, instead of buying a proper incontinence pad to manage the symptoms, are using sanitary towels because they're too embarrassed to buy an incontinence pad, or they're just using rolled up rope. That would be desperate.
Yeah.
They start with quite broad sheets, so if that was in there, would not be comfortable. Don't use wallpaper. And a glitter might be alright, it might be a bit absorbing. Don't use wallpaper, but loo roll, people use loo roll, which can be effective. You know, if you're cut short, it's not an unreasonable solution, but long term, then you just land up with excoriation and irritation of your vulval tissue, which is grim.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did a survey during this campaign, and people had quite a lot of people that said that they just don't use anything. They just leap into their knickers and hope for the best with it, because I guess that it's another step of accepting that it's happening to actually reach out for the products.
Yeah.
And, you know, how widely sold are incontinence products in your experience?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that one of the big firms had a profit of £55 million in England. No, that's not right. £550 million, which is a lot. And NHS spend is about £290 million on pads. But with the ageing population, it's a huge, huge market. And you're not going to be short of people to sell to. And also there was a figure that said that 50% of maxi pads, so people aren't buying incontinence pads, they're buying pads that are designed for sanitary wear. So 50% of those are used for bladder management, just because they're too ashamed to pick up the right product.
Okay, yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening out there and you're learning stuff today, then give us a comment and let us know where you're joining in from. I can see a few people from Bristol. Hi Rose, hi Maddie, hi Penny. Also, if you can hear us properly, will you give us a notification? If you can click the wow face, let us know if you can hear us properly. Okay, so we've been talking about stress incontinence, we've been talking about the barriers to accessing the right products, and we've been talking about the taboo around the subject, and how pelvic floor health is absolutely key for stress incontinence. And so without further ado, I think maybe it's time to actually talk about what pelvic floor exercises are and how do you do them.
Oh, this is my favourite thing. Don't pass me the plastic pelvis.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Model pelvis. So I think if you understand what a pelvic floor is, it makes it an awful lot easier to be confident that you're doing the contraction properly. About 50% of women aren't sure that they're contracting the pelvic floor effectively, and that affects adherence. Obviously, if you know that you're doing it right, you're going to be motivated to do it. So by way of explanation, plastic pelvis, and the red bits are muscles, and the blue bits are ligaments, and the pink bits is your own bits. So you've got vulva and an anus. Now the weird thing about pelvic floor muscles is some of them attach onto the ligaments, which is unusual. Normally muscle attaches bone to bone. So because the muscle attaches onto the ligament, it changes as you get older or if you're pregnant. But the action, and there's loads of muscles and they're complicated. Like if you were a urogynecologist, you have to know quite a lot about this stuff, but if you're just an owner, all the muscles are shared, they all have the same nerve and all the muscles do the same thing. So if you imagine that the action is to squeeze and lift, then that's you working your pelvic floor. And the reason for that is because some of them go around in circles. So when they squeeze, they can hold your hole shut, and then the action of them is to lift to support all of the gubbins that's on top of here. So all of your bladder, your vagina, your uterus, if you have one, your rectum. So they've got a lot of work to do, these muscles. And they also resist the forces from above, like if you laugh or cough or sneeze, and from below, like if you're running. So when you're running, there's 3 times your body weight and impact rattling up your leg into your pelvic floor, which is why a lot of female runners leak a bit. So to get the pelvic floor to work, what you have to do is squeeze and lift the muscles and hold them for a count of 10 seconds. And that's the one that will buy you a bit more time and strengthen the muscles so that if there's a big queue at the toilet, you don't have to panic. And then you also have to do quick flicks, because having lots of strength in your pelvic floor isn't enough. It needs to be able to react to what you're doing, so that if you did something daft, like going a trampoline, your pelvic floor muscles have to kick in to support the neck of your bladder, otherwise you're going to wet yourself. Now, the tricky bit is understanding what this squeeze and lift feels like. There's been lots of work done into this where they've been ultrasounding people's tummies to see what the muscles are actually doing. And the best command, or the one that's most effective for most people, is to imagine. Can I say fart?
Yes.
Absolutely. Just to imagine that you're holding in a fart, right? But imagine it in something that's pretty graphic. So you're in a lift with people that you don't want to disgrace yourself in front of, like maybe your secret crush and your partner and your mother-in-law and your boss and whoever it is. But definitely it's a nightmare, especially if you've got your secret crush and your mother-in-law. That is awkward. People should get used to it for Christmas. So the idea of letting that fart out, and it's not, it's nasty. It's not. It's not the sort of fart that you can get forgiven of on Valentine's Day. It is reeking. It's not nice. So that thing that you're doing now with your bum, you're squeezing it shut, that's you working your pelvic floor. Now, when you're doing them, though, you have to keep breathing, because we talk a lot about pelvic floor weakness, but these muscles get fixed as well. They're flexible. So when you're breathing, they're moving up and down in time with your diaphragm. So if you hold your breath when you do your pelvic floor exercises, or if you do a lot of impact work, or if you've had some trauma or anxiety, or if you've had a birth injury, sometimes you can get spasm in these muscles, or they just become a bit less flexible. So those people can have symptoms of leaking, but if you do the pelvic floor exercises, it's not going to help, because you don't want to strengthen an already over tight muscle. You have to learn to relax it. So if you have pain when you do the exercises, or if you get a lot of pelvic pain, then you probably shouldn't do these. You should come into clinic for an assessment, because it's probably not going to be that effective. But for the rest of us, keep breathing at the same time, and don't cheat by squeezing your hips and your butt together. It's going to be right underneath, so you're feeling it right when you're sitting.
Yeah, I think we should. Okay, so if you're ready now to squeeze along, this is the moment.
So take a deep breath in, and then sigh out, and then you're going to squeeze and lift, and hold it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I noticed your eyebrows going at the same time. 2, 1, and then relax. You might not feel anything let go in particular, and that means either that the muscles are too tight to be able to relax, or they're not strong enough to resist against gravity, or it's just a bit weird doing it live.
Yeah. Not used to it. You need to get used to it. It's very important.
Yeah, practice definitely helps. If you have a look, that can help to get the idea of what the muscles are doing. So if you get a mirror, and then uninterrupted 10 minutes, which is the challenge. If you do a pelvic floor contraction, then you can see the tissue around your vagina and around your anus changes. It squeezes. It's like wets up. It does. I have a little tick box to see anal wink.
Well, it's you're saying about getting a free 10 minutes, which is probably harder for women who have children, who this disproportionately is important for and affects. So maybe locks on the bathroom door, vagina winking at you.
The kids only need to see that once to learn not to come into the toilet with their mum. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, please comment and let us know if you feel like you know now how to do pelvic floor exercises properly and accurately, and you feel like this is something that you'll be using in the future. We hope that you're learning while you're squeezing today. Happy Valentine's Day for those who have joined just now. So hi Ava, nice to see you joining. Okay, so that's the demonstration. And
I didn't say how long for.
okay,
You do the hold for a count of 10 and then these 10 quick flicks that go like at that sort of speed, like, oh, I'm going to fart, oh no, it's going to be. And you do 10 of those in a row. And you have to do those 3 times a day for 3 months
okay.
to get dry, and then do them once a day, every day until you're done. Otherwise it comes back. Yeah, you have to just do them. There's not a pelvic floor theory. Worse luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So the trick is to maintain momentum with it, I guess. Keep doing it.
Make
Keep
it
going.
a habit. It's really hard to remember, especially as you're saying, if there's lots of distractions in the day, lots of children, then it is a challenge. You can use if you've got a smartphone, set a reminder on it. So there's apps you can get. Squeezy is very good. If you use Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Gussie Grips. And when I tweet, you twitch your twinkle. I tend just to tweet stuff about vaginas and bum holes. I'm a definite one-trick pony.
Brilliant. I follow you and I enjoy it. So.
Good.
Okay, so do let us know how you're finding this. Let us know if you have any comments as we go along. We are going to move into our question and answer session now. So thank you to everybody who has submitted questions to us throughout this campaign. So the first question that we have received is there any variation to pelvic floor exercises for those who have had diastasis, recti, or abdominal separation?
Good question. So diastasis is where the muscles in your tummy that people have a six-pack from. I'll show you mine tomorrow. So when you're pregnant, then as the bump grows, some people get separation of those muscles. It's almost of no consequence for most people. Normally after the baby's born, the muscles come back together again. If they don't though, then it's important that you get that looked at and follow up, because having a gap between your muscle belly and your abdominals affects your strength in your core, and that's associated with vaginal prolapse and low back pain. So what we would like to see as physios is everybody at the 6-week check getting checked to see if the muscles have come back together or not, and I'm pleased to see that that's one of the proposals in the NHS 10-year plan now, that in NHS England every postnatal woman, the proposal is that they will get seen by a postnatal physiotherapist, which is really exciting. So in short, doing the pelvic floor exercises won't fix an abdominal problem because training is specific. So if you're working your pelvic floor, you're going to strengthen your pelvic floor. You need to be able to work your pelvic floor and your core together. So what we would do is get people doing lots of breathing work, lots of postural work, make sure that they're able to engage the core, and then work a functional training programme up depending on how strong you are. So starting off, if you're lying down, when you lift your head up, is there a gap appears in your tummy? Is there a sausage shape, or can you feel a gap? And if there is, then we would get you doing abdominal work to try and pull that together. Once you can do that, can you do stuff in sitting? Can you do stuff in standing? Can you lunge? Can you run without your abdominal muscles being stressed? There's lots of resources that you can use online. There's lots of some really, really good online programs actually. Mu2 is one of them, MUTU, that Wendy Powell runs. And she's got a new, if you Google, I think it's My Doctor Sent Me, Then there's free information that she's got on there. Jenny Burrell has very good things with Burrell Education, Louise Field with Adore Your Floor, and Cherry Baker. There's lots of resources other than coming to see somebody one-to-one. But yeah, don't put up with it, because apart from aesthetically, people get self-conscious because the mummy tummy remains. Long term, it can have an impact on your actual function. If you're going to get back pain from it, it needs to be sorted. One thing to say though is a lot of women get very hung up on how big the gap is, and the gap itself isn't necessarily a problem. It's to do with if you've got any tension that you can generate between the muscle bellies. So the gap should have a bit of gristle in there, and as long as the gristle is strong enough to do its job, then you can have a gap and still be functional and not have a problem. So it's worth getting it assessed. In the NHS here, if you've got a 3-finger gap, after you've had the baby, when you lift your head up, then you should be referred to physio. So if you see any doming when you're getting in and out of a bath, like a sort of sausage shape appearing, then get it followed up.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that about the existence of that. So yeah, no, it's good to know, good to learn. Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm going to roll through the rest of them, because I think that we are running slightly short of time now. But so this question was one that we've heard a few times and is a very good question, I think. So, are pelvic floor exercises right for everyone? For example, people with endometriosis and pelvic pain?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and the short answer is no. The reason that we can say everybody can try it is because it's not going to do any actual long-term harm if it's not the correct thing to do for you. It will generate pain, and so as soon as somebody starts to become uncomfortable, they're going to stop. The reason that endometriosis can cause a problem, so endometriosis is a disorder of menstruation. So instead of the uterine lining being contained inside the uterus, you can get pockets developing all over the place. And these women can have terrible problems with bleeding and terrible problems with severe pain. Now, with that, you can get a bit of spasm in the muscle. And remember I was saying that not all the muscles are weak. Sometimes you can get bands of spasm. And just like you can get spasm in your neck after somebody's had a whiplash, then you can get similar problems in your pelvic floor. So yes, if you have problems like that, then for some women, doing lots of pelvic floor exercises is probably going to exacerbate it. A good resource for that is there's an excellent website run by the Pelvic Expert. It's an Australian website. Her name is Hiba Shahid, Hebashahid, and she has endometriosis and chronic pain herself, and she's an expert women's health physio, so she's a great resource. Go and have a look at the pelvicexpert.com.
Right, thank you. Yeah, with all of these references and resources, we will post them in the event group. I'll get onto that on Monday, so if you're hearing this stuff and you think it's interesting, you can't remember the name, I'll get back to people with those. Okay, great. So this next question, a lady has said, I wee when I sneeze, jump and shout. I am seeing a women's physio who has said my pelvic floor muscles are in spasm, which is why pelvic floor exercises are not helping me. First, I need to relax these. I've tried stretching and breathing exercises, but she's saying she can't help me unless I relax them, which makes me more stressed. Any advice?
Yeah. If you are, there's some people think that your pelvic floor muscles are related to the stress that you feel in your body. So when people are stressed and their shoulders come right up, in some people it's your pelvic floor that does as well. And that goes back to this thing about the muscles moving up and down and then getting tight and fixed. Now she's right, there's no point in strengthening a muscle that's fixed, it needs to be able to relax, and there's lots and lots of strategies for that. There's lots of breathing relaxation to do. You can do lots of stretches. The yoga poses are very good, like the early stuff like the child's pose when somebody's curled up, and underneath I can give you links and show you things. There's different
give me a demonstration.
Yeah, I could, but I don't think. So yeah, there's all sorts of stretches that you can do. You can also massage it, like you can if you've got a tight muscle in your neck. It's a bit weird because it's up your bits, But if you can get a gadget that you can reach where the tender spot is, that works. So there's things that you can get commercially that work. You can get these sort of like glass wands. You can buy these online, but really all it is something that you're going to find the tender spot and then just massage onto the tender spot of the tissue. To be honest, I'm not sure what the difference would be between buying a wand or just having, you know, something you can pick up at Ann Summers that does the same thing. It's just
this is more usable for many things.
Yeah, motivation for compliance. That's what it's all about. So yeah, if you have symptoms like that, then don't put up with it, but come and get a referral. Yeah.
Cool. Great. So let us know if you're still with us. Please do comment in the box. Let us know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, how your pelvic floor is. We are running slightly over. We still have quite a few questions to cover. So if you are with us, and if you're happy to continue,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We will just keep cracking on. So I've wanted to get into doing pelvic floor squeezes regularly, as I've heard so much about their benefits. But how do I know if I'm doing them correctly?
Yeah, that is a problem. So think about this squeeze and lift business. Imagine that you're squeezing your bum hole shut and then lifting it up. If you have a look, then you can see something physical change. The other test that you can do is, the advice is to pop something in there and give it a squeeze. Now, it suggests that it's your finger that you use, but it doesn't need to be your finger. It's Valentine's Day, make use of your partner if you have one handy. And what you're looking for is just biofeedback to see, is the muscle actually doing anything? Is there any change in tone and the grip that you can feel? And if there is, then yeah, you know that you're doing them properly. There's some gadgets that you can get as well. You can get machines that will give you biofeedback electronically and say that you're doing them properly. Or you can get, this is a product from Kegel 8, which goes into the vagina, and then if you squeeze and lift correctly without holding your breath, the wand dips down. And if you're cheating and holding your breath or squeezing your butt, then the wand tips up the way. With Kegel 8 make one and Mean make one, NWEN. And you can buy these on the internet for not very much at all. But they can be quite useful because it's known that you're doing them properly. So if you're doing them and it's going like this, and you're like, yay, no, I'm doing them right. Or if it's tipping up the way, then you know that woman said that's not right. you have to remember to take it out though when you go to answer the door, because people judge. The easiest way to know though is just to come and get an assessment. Come to clinic and we'll tell you very quickly if you're doing them right or not. And about 30% of women bear down instead of pulling up because we're so dissociated from our pelvic floors, so it's worth doing.
Okay, cool. That was a good question. The next question is there a time limit on when you can improve your pelvic floor? Are you before a certain age or within a certain time bracket of giving birth?
No, it's easier before you're menopausal, because once you're menopausal, because of the loss of estrogen, then building muscle is more difficult, and the quality of the ligaments that these muscles attach onto changes slightly. But I've had people of a great age coming into clinic, women in their 80s. And there was a study done in Canada looking at elderly, frail women who were in residential care, and they got a bunch of them. I mean, they were cognitively intact, so they were, they didn't have any confusion and they were able to comply. But a bunch of them had great results. So if they can do it, then everybody else can.
Yes, very brave ladies. So I am going to move through these now. So the next one is, I swapped from drinking coffee to drinking green tea, but it hasn't made any difference to my leaking. Can you suggest something?
Yeah, green tea is full of caffeine. Caffeine is a common bladder irritant, not for everybody, but for lots of people. And I hear this a lot, people swap to green tea because it's popular. I think it's rank, but never mind. But green tea is one of the few herbal teas that's got lots and lots of caffeine in it, so almost anything else. Decaf tea and coffee still has caffeine in it, so if you're super, super sensitive, you might find that that's still bothersome. Anything that's got caffeine, citrus, fizz or alcohol, and tomato. Some people are very sensitive to tomato. So it's worth having a look at it to see if there's something that's a trigger, and just play around with it. Some folk aren't bothered at all by caffeine, but they're good for them. It bothers me.
We just move through the day really quickly on caffeine, but leaking everywhere. Not you, but anybody who is.
It is difficult. I've got a 3 o'clock school pickup.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the last one now. I always forget to do my exercises. Have you suggestions to help remind me?
Yeah, it's adherence that's the main challenge with this. I think because for most people there's no pain associated with stress incontinence, that it's really hard to remember. If you've got a frozen shoulder, it hurts, so you remember to do your exercises and stretches because the pain prompts you. But when it's leaking and something that's as insidious as stress incontinence, which can be small volumes, and you're busy, it is a challenge for everybody. The advice is to make a habit of it, so if you do it when you brush your teeth, then at least you're doing it twice a day, which is better than none. The app that I mentioned, if you try and set yourself reminders, and actually the thing that works the best is creating your own little self-help group. So if you find that your friends have all got similar problems, then use each other to nag each other and prompt and remind you. I found a group of colleagues at work that were doing their pelvic floor exercises when they were using the microwave for the lunch. So they would put their lunch into the microwave to heat it up and then be very intent, waiting for it to ding. And then a gentleman in their office was using it, and he was also standing there looking very intent, but he wasn't part of it. I just thought he had to look fierce when you were in a microwave. Yeah. So anything at all, the app squeeze is good. But there's a variety of things like that online. That you just got to find something to remind yourself, because it's worth it. Well, I'll tell you the thing that might help is knowing that if your pelvic floor is in good working order, it makes your orgasms better. That can be motivating.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Especially in Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, good reason to keep practicing as we're transmitting, and then you can go off and have your romantic evening. Okay, so if you bear with me, I'm just going to grab the name of the competition winner. It's the moment of truth.
I feel like I should be doing a drum roll.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm receiving this information live, so you know I've not fuddled the results. So, okay, the competition winner is Emma Pearson. Congratulations, Emma. Thank you for entering. So, Emma, you have won a pair of Project Pico organic cotton underwear. So then they're dry as well, they'll come to you dry. Some organic lube from Yes, essential trading pumpkin seeds, which are good for bladder health, some Pucker Womankind tea, and some Pucker Womankind supplements, some of our Natracare Dry and Light incontinence range, which are plastic-free and biodegradable, and you can specify whether you would want the plus or the slim, and some Natracare intimate wipes. So this will all come in our lovely Big Squeeze organic tote bag, which has this design on it, done by the lovely Jasmine Hortop.
I love that, it's really good.
It's nice, isn't it? It's lovely. Okay, so congratulations, Emma.
Well done.
And so talking about the dry and light range, so this is a sample pack that we have here. If anybody who's watching wants to get in contact afterwards to let us know that they would like to try a sample, please do. So what's special about this is that it's plastic free, biodegradable, so your kind of average incontinence pad takes 500 years to break down because it's full of plastic. It's got a plastic liner, it has super absorbent polymers as the kind of absorbent agent, which they don't biodegrade. This has none of that. This will be long gone before you are. This, like we were saying earlier, we know that this is not a solution to incontinence, but it is a product to manage it. If you care about the environment and you kind of don't want to make an impact on the world, we believe that you should have the choice to choose something that's plastic free and ecologically responsible. So that's our product. Please do get in contact if you would like to try some. So yeah, this will be in the competition bag as well. Bigger boxes, not the sample box. But yeah, so that's us. And that's pretty much all from us today. So thank you for joining. Nice to see you, Charlie and Em. Thanks for joining. And yeah, do let us know if you have any comments or questions afterwards, and we will answer you in the coming days. And then, like I said, I'll put all of the resources that Elaine has mentioned on Monday onto the group. So, yeah.
Grant,
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It's really lovely to have you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks very much.
Bye. Bye. Ooh, bye.